because it does a lot of the rhino head wagging that a lot of my gaboons are not doing. She's a lovely animal. You want to focus on this?
Yeah. You good?
Yeah.
I was looking at yourself over here. Hold on.
This snake she's a doll.
Come on, Donny, find her. Find her, Donny. I'm looking at the ceiling.
I'm coming.
There she is, hey? Look at that. Yeah, you can see those rhino coming through there, huh?
Yeah, on the nose and everything.
Yeah.
Obviously the pattern.
And the coloration a bit too.
Yeah. I could not even imagine ever finding like a wild gaboon or a rhino. That would be like a bucket list animal to see it in the wild.
Yeah. I've got plans to go up to Congo and Uganda.
Yeah.
And look there. So the rhino gaboon hybrid that you had, that bred with something else to give, with the gaboon to give her, was that, do you know, was it bred in captivity or was it wild?
So I did not make this at all. I'm just one of the beneficiaries of getting to have one of these animals. So somebody else actually did this breeding, and we don't see this cross too often around here, but it was absolutely bred in captivity. So the gaboon rhino, which was bred in captivity, then raised up and then bred back to a gaboon, that once again was in captivity. So this is, an F2 at least.
I didn't know that hybrids could actually breed again.
Okay.
I know hybrid.
I've done a lot of hybrids, and what you do is you don't breed the hybrid back to itself. You breed it back to one of the ingredients of that, and you can get fertility for sure. But when I breed hybrids back to hybrids, I get generally no fertility or very, very low fertility and problems.
That's cool. How long have you been breeding snakes for, Kev?
That's a really good question. So
the 20s?
Yeah, the 20s. No,
how old are you now?
I'm so old I don't remember. I won't tell you.
You're so old you want dust.
Yeah. No, it's like as kids, I bred snakes, not well. I still probably don't breed snakes well. I do okay. And I bred a boa constrictor. I bred an Everglades rat snake. I did some of that stuff, but I started being more like an active breeder in the late 80s.
That's a long time ago, huh?
Yeah, and you figured I'd be a lot better at this than I am. So
I'm as useful as a milk bucket under a bull at breeding, mate.
Oh yes.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah.
Good
milking the bulls. This snake.
What did you just say? Milking the bulls?
That's what he just said.
Oh, nice. That's good.
I'm milking a bull. I said I'm as useful as breeding snakes as a milk bucket under a bull, meaning I'm useless.
Dude,
I didn't say milking a bull.
Between a bull and a cow.
Oh, that's not nice, Kevin. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to give you here. Hold on.
Donny, you're doing well there, buddy. What's going on?
Big camera guy. You don't have to say it. I know. Kevin prods me all the time.
Kev, how old are you? Is that private information?
Kevin's definitely a vampire. I tell him not to tell anybody his age. So
I don't tell anybody now.
I'll tell you off stream. He's in his 70s. I don't want to say the high or low.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
You see that? She's character.
She's very cool. I like her. I've never seen that 75-25. I've had wild caught back in the day, wild caught hybrids coming out of the eastern side. So it's the East African gaboon, the gabonica, what they used to call it. Yeah. And before they split it to rhinoceros. And I had, the Arturi forest rhinos.
Yeah. Oh my God, so nice.
Yep. I've had quite a few of them before. So when you get a hybrid from Arturi forest and the eastern side of the gaboon range, woo, beautiful.
Really? Because I always think that I tend to like the westerns more because I really like the colors and the rostrals and all that. But
What, the Western gaboons?
Yeah.
I like their size and I like the scales on the nose.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, and I like the color.
Beautiful.
I like the
Yeah,
color.
for us, we've got a small locality in KwaZulu-Natal where I live of Easterns, highly protected. You can't keep them. You can't do anything with them. One of the few snakes in KwaZulu-Natal protected, and there's a lot of them there that have a massive pink kind of hue on them. I've seen some drop dead gorgeous ones there. Absolutely amazing. Some of the nicest I've seen. And then a little bit further north out of South Africa on the east coast there a bit, some beautiful pink ones. And then I've seen some ugly mongrels as well.
So you've actually seen a gaboon in the wild?
One.
Oh,
Road cruising. But to us, it's not like I want to see them in the Congo or in Uganda in a forest. The one I saw, it was on a video actually. We were doing road cruising and it was on a dirt road cruising across. So it didn't feel like a wild snake.
So was it just doing the straight caterpillar walk?
Yeah.
Across the road?
Just inching across with the saddles going womp, 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 womp. But it didn't feel wild. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that would to me just be super, super exciting. And I imagine they're probably pretty calm. I was watching one of your videos and you found one of these puff adders with the yellow.
Yeah.
It was kind of like under this bank. And
that's on our land, hey? That's on the land where we're building our park.
I was loving that. And it was very well behaved, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For a Abitus. I just thought it was pretty awesome. And very pretty.
Yeah. So I've got some puff adders that are absolutely off their heads. That one that we found out there that morning, it did help. It was quite a cooler morning. I think, if I remember right, it was a few months back. But it was a bit of a cooler morning. But that snake chilled out. And I found some puppies very chilled out and politely behaved. I've got another one here we use for demonstrations. You walk anywhere within about 6 foot of it, it's just striking. And you hear those fangs come out. They go like, kah, kah, kah. And it's striking the whole time. Look at the snake looking at me. Hello, Snakey.
She's such a cool snake. This is like a snake you literally could probably pick it up, and move it because she's tall. But, there's really no benefit for me doing
You are
that
responsible.
Yeah, and I bet you get it too. Like sometimes I have to control myself from taking stupid liberties. Do you ever feel yourself, I need to think?
Well, Kev, for me, one thing that's made a big difference is the hypersensitivity. So if I wasn't hypersensitive, it would be harder to control myself because now I know. So I'll take out my big king for you now, Thor. I know that if he bites me, I'm not going to make it. My allergies are too acute. I won't even get to a hospital. I'll be dead within 2 minutes. So because of that, in my mind, I'm like, I actually can't take the chance, It's not like I'll get bitten and I'll wear it off because I'm a tough guy. What happened, Donny?
I just had to put you down while you're talking, Dingo. Sorry.
It's okay. Your arm's tied.
Yeah.
And so when you're playing with that snake, and you know that snake probably better than, obviously most anybody except for maybe one of your keepers. But
better.
What would you say? Do you feel confident you could hold it without him even trying to bite you?
With him, I could, but I don't do it.
No, right. I'm not saying you would, but that's
I trust him.
That's the thing that screws us up because we start thinking we understand everything. And one thing that's really interesting, very fact, I can handle one of these animals, right? And so I'm holding it, but now if I want to show the world, I have to film it. And now we're bouncing off this infrared. That can take an animal that might not misbehave and suddenly worry that animal to the point where it kind of goes into a defensive mode. Its brain shuts down and just starts, you know, doing that non-predictable thing. And a lot of times I don't think people are appreciating that, because they're looking at it and they're getting their comfort because they're cleaning its cage and they've worked with it for a year or whatever, and they think they got it down. As soon as I add that camera, it all changes. And that needs to be considered.
I think also with the kings, so where I struggle with the big kings is because, like Goliath was, what's it, 22 pounds. Thor's heavier. He's probably pushing 25 to 30 pounds, I'd say. It becomes really tricky on a hook stick because of the weight and stuff. And the hook stick, even a double hook, is very narrow for that body mass. So with him, I wear gloves. I get him out with a hook because you'll know kings in an enclosure are very defensive until they're out most of the time. Yes. So even with him, I won't put my hand in there and just grab him and pull him, because he's not in that mode yet. And most of the time, if I open this with their metabolism, he's going to be looking for food in the beginning anyway. So I have to get him out of that food mode first. And then I'll hook him until he's moving away from me. And then I'll slowly be able to pull him out by mid-body towards the tail and slowly bring him out. Then he's generally okay. But we still have to think of things like, I've just touched a forest cobra with this glove. And if he's smelling that, then what happens?
Isn't that when you do that with kings, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, and they stop, and they just look down, and all of a sudden, sometimes they just try to eat things.
Yeah.
It smells like another snake.
100%. So if I bring chicken in this room, or if I bring in, somehow they know the smell now of a dead thawed snake. So I take it out of deep freeze, I've got it soaking, it's thawing out. Anything goes near that glass, and you would have seen it with the kings, the open mouth all over the glass like this, because they can smell the food, and now they're seeing my movement, and it's like a moray eel all over the glass, up and down for ages. So I'm very aware of their feeding response. I love interacting with him. I wish I could sit down and put him around my neck and give him kisses, because I love him, but I don't trust him.
Are you still?
Yeah. Yeah.
She has so much personality. She's wobbling her head. It's almost like she's begging for food. She wants to eat more than we're feeding her. Yeah. But she's a very, very sweet animal, not inclined to biting. And I have, just such respect for her. But she's a doll. Look at that. To me, that's
so beautiful.
Just all that extra personality.
It's not a thumbnail.
For sure. She's beautiful. Can I take out my big boy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch views.
Sorry, put this away.
Yeah. I mean, whatever you feel comfortable doing, Kevin. She's chill.
It's fine.
So like now his tail's over here, and his head's lying behind these bushes here. And you know what it's like? As soon as I touch that tail, sorry, here we go. You're back. We had no problem, Donny.
Kevin's phone dials 911 sometimes. It's really cool.
This is funny.
Are you with us?
Two hands.
This cage. I'm using.
I'm looking at old Rex now.
I know. Oh yeah, aren't they not Instagram worthy? They're so.
I saw them in your video the other night, but Kevin says they work well.
Right.
Well, they're here for a little bit longer because we have more caging to finish out the whole venomous room. Reptile Basics is working on our run of cages, and so this room's going to be kind of posh.
Ooh.
Cool. I don't think people in the public understand how much money we spend on caging, and it never, ever stops, huh? Never.
If anybody's looking for some used caging, I have some 4-footers and some 6-footers and a couple nice racks. Because over here, Dingo, we're having a massive caging shortage. So when we make orders with Animal Plastics and Freedom Breeder, sometimes they're like, okay, we'll deal with you next year. And it's like,
Dude,
you're really talking towards a year, you know, at least to have,
crazy.
you know, close to a year just to get your order. So
We don't have any plastic enclosures in this country. We can't get them.
all glass.
He doesn't.
All glass, or we make our own out of timber. Check him. Now watch him here, Kev.
7.
Now he wants food.
Yep. Look at that.
I'm gonna pull it.
Comes. Yep.
Come on. And he always gets into the hardest part to get out here.
Oh my God, Lilith is so good at that.
Ah!
This side.
Okay, here he is here. And normally, I see you've also got some of your kings at head height. The more whippy ones I don't, but he's an absolute sweetheart once he's out of this mode here. Hello, big boy. Can you see him there?
Yes. So he's.
And now generally, if I pull him like this, he'll start going away from me after he does his initial rush. Why do king cobras do that thing with their neck when they ripple? Have you seen it?
That's what. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know. Is that
It's amazing.
just taking in a lot of information and breathing in and trying to assess? I don't know.
It's incredible. Have you ever seen any other snake do it?
No, but I know exactly what you're talking about when they're hooding up and they're doing this whatever that. The weird,
It's incredible. Come on, big boy.
I know my rhino cross is trying to do that. She's
Yeah.
keeps wobbling her head and showing off.
Bye. This one. I'm gonna go back. You're right back.
At the moment, this looks actually, he's a bit feisty tonight. Come on and play. So like now, Kev, I would never put my hand in there now.
Because isn't it amazing? Like as soon as you touch them, all of a sudden they like double right back to what's touching them. Examine it.
And he's also, at the moment, he is hungry. But he's not in the food mode now, obviously, but tongue's still flicking. And I've also found, I don't know if you found it, like people, on different days, different moods, some snakes.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I've learned that if the snake is in a bad mood, you just leave him alone for that day. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. And these are, I think a lot of these are nuances about, you know, you can't go on a forum and learn how to snake behavior, how to anticipate things that comes from years and years. And my best learning is myself making mistakes about something that I wasn't able to predict until it actually happened. And then that becomes of my palate, of my ability.
Yeah. Check how beautiful he's looking now.
He's huge.
Now, my dream, obviously all of our dreams is to, like, you know, I didn't get him. I had him when he was a hatchling. We imported him. He was farmed in Malaysia. And then we sold a whole bunch off when they came in, including him and his female. And then I only got him back about 5 years later. So my dream is to make him massive, you know what I mean? Not fat, but a big, big snake. That's why we've also, he's got a 30-foot enclosure because I want him to exercise. We take him outside for exercise because I want him to kind of metabolize things and grow and not just get fat. But with not having him for those first 5 years, I don't know what he'll max out at. You know what I mean?
That's that. How big is he, would you say?
In meters, he's about 4.8 meters. So what's that? Donny, you got a calculator there?
Because a meter is 3.3 foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's...
So he's about, call him 15. There or thereabouts.
So one thing that's really interesting about kings, if a lot of people like are, you know, everybody's watching this, when you touch a king cobra, their body structure is quite different than a lot of other snakes. They're almost hard. They have a ridiculous, like just a very muscly feel. Would you agree to that, Dingo?
100%. It's like there's no fat, it's all muscle.
Yes.
Okay, I'm coming to you. Like all of that there is just, it's like almost sinewy and muscly, and he's I mean, look at his girth here. Can you see his girth?
Yes.
He's a big snake, but he really isn't fat. Like I probably feed him, Kev, at the moment once a month, huh? And it's about a ball python or two once a month. So it's not like we're pumping him with food. He goes off food during season. Last year he was off food for 4 months, but he never lost condition. Like, check it.
No, it is super, super impressive. I mean, that, you know, we can always talk about how big these animals get, and a lot of people don't realize. So an anaconda size potential, a king cobra size potential is really when you put a huge amount of extra effort to get them to attain that. They don't just get to be that without a lot of work.
And time, I found, because the last thing I want to do is I don't want to pump him. Then he gets all fat and he dies of something prematurely because I've overfed him because I want a big king cobra. That's not fair on him, you know?
Yeah.
So
a lot of things
like I've got a big retic here. Nothing like, I mean, you got lots of retics. I've got one big one. She's 6 meters. So call it 20 foot, there or thereabouts.
Have you caught like an African rock before? Like, how about a natal? Yeah. Have you ever caught a natalensis, the South African rock?
Yeah. One of the most fun snakes to catch in your life. They just come at you, white mouth, hundreds of teeth, poo everywhere. I've got stitches. I don't know if you could see. There's a scar over here. Can you see the scar, Chris?
There's a lot of words in the way, so I can't see much. There's people.
There's my scar there.
Hey, everybody,
that scar running up here, that's from one of those. Got me on the finger and dropped down and just kind of got stitches from that. But I've caught 4.5 meter. That's my biggest I've caught of a rock python in the river. We were tubing down a river, and we got to a space where we all pulled out onto the bank, you know, like whitewater rafting, but the cheap version with a tractor tube. And we were on the side, and I saw this nose sticking up in the water, and it was shallow. It was about a foot deep of water, and it was up on the bank. And I came behind it, jumped on it, and all hell broke loose. It was just pandemonium. There was just coils going everywhere. Mouth opens, this massive white mouth, and I don't know. We've never really kept them in captivity here. They're protected species. And they just, you know, wild ones are just, I mean, they just poo and bite you all the time.
Yeah.
But so much fun to interact with, you know?
Yeah. So I used to breed African rocks.
Yeah.
And my biggest clutch was 88 eggs.
Yeah. How big was the female?
That was, well, she was 16 foot, but that's Python Sabae. And you get the Python Sabae natalensis, which are, I think they're more beautiful because of the blue and the gray, and they're small, but they're smaller growing. And so it's telling me that you know, 13 foot natalensis sounds like a pretty big natalensis.
Well, from what we've seen, yes. Yeah. And the males are obviously, like all of them, the males are much smaller, but we've seen, I think the biggest I've ever seen was about I'd say a 14.5 footer. It's hard. I'm trying to do the calculations in my brain here. Yeah. But and we did a show for Nat Geo or Smithsonian or something, you know, like a natural history show, where for 4 months I worked with about 5 different natalensis. So we're showing different shots, and it's painful. I don't know if you've done much of that. I hate it. It's like, put the snake around, it goes around the corner, perfect shot, let's do it again 53 times.
I've done for TV shows, and generally, you know, it's interesting, when I film for documentaries, they will cut a lot of what I do and even my interaction with them, because I paint the animals in a different light and I'm not sensational and I don't want to animals, and they want somebody that's going to over exaggerate the dangers and the worries and just trying to add rational, because I love the animals. So sometimes that gets me removed from a documentary or natural history type stuff.
Sure. They want a bit more sensational.
They want you to be Tiger King.
Yeah, I've filmed for where they're trying to do like down in Florida, Nat Geo filmed me for like the hybrid, like what happens if an African rock python breeds with the Burmese python and you make the super python. And they came up and filmed me 2 different days. And I rationalized the whole thing because I've actually made the cross. And the cross is not as successful as either the Burmese python or the African rock python. And I actually argued that the hybrid is not the thing that's going to get bigger. If anything, it's genetically, it's inferior. They didn't like that. So
no, that won't make good TV, yeah? So tell me, sorry, I know we've been streaming for a long time, yeah? But, Kirst, if you want to go, you must go, my man. We'll just talk rubbish here. Bye. The Burmese problem in Florida, is it real? Is it as bad as everyone makes out?
Way more exaggerated than what happens, because if you go back and you look at all the trapping events and how far they're widespread, I mean, if we look to date, how many Burmese pythons have actually been collected, right? They collected it. This is an invasive python. Tag it up. You know, you hear them talking, oh, there could be 100,000. There could be 200,000 and the densities per hectare. Well, the numbers that we're talking are less than 6,000, a little bit over 5,000 that are recorded. So recorded animals removed and euthanized, that is not supportive of what they're doing. But what they do is they need to sensationalize it. They have a boogeyman, FWC, which is essentially the Florida Fish and Game. They use that as a weapon against keepers and against invasive, invasive pets and all this different stuff. So what they do is they create a boogeyman, something that's going to challenge the Everglades and distract people from the biggest invasive and the biggest problem of all, which is us. We're draining all the swamps. We're changing the ecosystems. We're changing the waterways. We're changing what the Everglades do, where they flood and they recede. And we're the whole dynamics of the environment. We have big sugar, which is putting massive amounts of pesticides and herbicides. We have FWC, which is spraying ridiculous herbicides into the waterways to kill invasive or noxious weeds. And then it's killing entire ecosystems. The manatees are dying.
Donny, you've gone on mute. Donny, I can't hear Kev.
And some responsible thoughtfulness about these animals, because where Burmese pythons come from and a lot of their range, they're endangered. You can remove these animals, but we just want to over exaggerate it. And obviously they shouldn't be there and they are a problem, but nothing like what they're arguing.
We made a video about
it. We made a video about it. Just going into talking about that. We have people taking snakes that are collected on a road and then pretending they're pulling them out of sewers and they're shooting off of canal banks. We're shooting them. And those animals were collected on a road. I was able to match the animals up by the pattern, and they become props to basically sensationalize what they're doing.
Then they kill them.
And then
Well, it's such a big thing that since Florida has had its issues, now invasive species has hit us in South Africa. So now Burmese pythons are invasive where we live. We don't have any invasive reptiles living in the wild here. Nothing. No exotics are living in colonies. There's none of that in where we live from. We've got gaboon adders are being the West Africans, you know, the rhinoceros. They are invasive where I live. The rhino vipers are invasive. And Kev, you know with those snakes, they are so specific to their locality that they come from. If I release a gaboon, they're hard enough to keep alive in an enclosure, let alone out in the wild. Yesterday, we had, 2 days ago, 100 degrees Fahrenheit here. Today is 16 degrees Celsius. What's 16 degrees? I don't know. It's half of that. It's 50 degrees Fahrenheit. What gaboon's going to survive that?
they certainly are not heat tolerant whatsoever, and they just
No.
they'll bleed from their mouth and just die. Their lung hemorrhages, and it's really amazing. And people think, you know, because it's a tropical animal, but these animals have the ability to find water, to find marshy areas. They're burrowing in to material where the temperature is more stabilized and living above the surface. But
Yeah.
people don't really realize that. And so that's really interesting. So they're saying that rhinoceros vipers and gaboon vipers are invasive, but you've only ever found one gaboon viper in your life?
And it's a different species of gaboon. So they're saying West African gaboon vipers from Togo, etc., Cameroon, are invasive in South Africa. Completely different climate.
So
They're saying rhino vipers from Uganda and West Africa are invasive here where we live. Completely different environment.
So
So
who is it? Is this the authority, the management authority?
yeah, the authority. So
So-
we've got a
I think this is being used as a weapon against us. How to
yeah.
you create this fear and this fear mongering, and you obviously, I bet if you had a invasive gaboon population, a breeding population, I bet you'd be there and you'd look to find them if they were actually there.
Yeah, 100%.
But the problem is, because in the political structure, these politicians can say it. They spoon feed this misinformation and fiction to the public sector. Everybody in the public sector digests it, and now it becomes like factual. And you now have to try to defend it, but you know, it's that little bit of piss in the swimming pool that causes people not to want to go into it. You know? Right?
Beautiful. Beautifully put. You should be a politician.
I'm so disgusted by politicians because they lie. They just, it's so sad. The 98% of them are just, I think they're all about themselves, and they want to lie and they want to mislead us, and they basically, we're just cattle, and they just figure out good ways to get us to get upset and activate us, and then we can't even think straight because we can't collect our emotions.
For sure. But anyway, Kev, Donny, you want to call it? What do you want to say?
Yeah, well, we can shut it down. That's good.
Okay, so
I don't know what you think, Kev.
For my listeners, Evil Morph God and New England Reptile, Dingo, I've become fast friends with Dingo, and just he and I can, like, it's like I met him, we started chatting, and it was like, wow, this is somebody that's on my mindset, which is really weird. And I became very fast friends. Like, I felt like, wow, you know, this person is very, very, what you see is what you get. Very charismatic, very high energy. And he also, there's an underlying tone, I believe, with you. You want people to love these animals like you do. And I have that same problem because they're so important to us. We want to create value and appreciation, because these animals are vanishing. And if you don't capture the interest of these people, they're not going to be inclined to save a coral reef, a rainforest, a plot of land down the street. And Dingo, I'm sure you probably realize in your audience, you probably have members of your audience that don't even keep reptiles, certainly don't keep venomous, but are fast fans of you. And I would urge everybody that is in my listening audience that Dingo is absolutely a person to follow. Enjoy what he's doing. And I also like it because he's very real. It's not like make-believe stuff. We all have our flaws, and we're maybe not always politically correct. And I like that because it makes us try. I don't want to be a fake version of myself. I do have to edit myself a bit, but I find you wonderful. And one very important thing is I really enjoy talking to you because when you don't know something, you don't pretend. You don't you have to know everything. And so when I talk to you, you're not deflecting anything. So if maybe I think I know something or I have an idea about something, I can offer it to you and you receive it very well, which means we get right to the point and the crux of, and we try to deal with that. And I really appreciate that. Sadly, in my industry, we have there's a lot of arrogance and ego mania and perception where there's people that may get maybe too much credit or regarded as being a remarkable authority or whatever, when I might look at them and I go, this is kind of tepid because I don't really see it. But I really like it when I'm with you. You're just very, very real. And I do appreciate our conversations and our back and forth because I have a lot to learn. Easily, I can learn a lot from you. And I really enjoy that.
Well, Kev, I appreciate that. And for me, what's been great about this journey is not only that it's helping out my snake, but is that for me, it's the reptile industry here in South Africa, probably the same as the States. There's a lot of dick measuring competitions. There's a lot of egos. And I have a theory that a lot of people, I think the issue comes where you get your identity out of the snakes you keep, or you've got a green anaconda or a king cobra or a black mamba, and then suddenly you get attention. You're known as the snake guy, and that becomes someone's identity instead of Kevin or Dingo or whoever the person is. And then it becomes, I must have the biggest snake or the fanciest snake or the whatever. And it overshadows why we all got into the animals in the first place, And for me, I remember I was 4 years old. My dad took me out to a river and we caught little brown water snakes, harmless snakes, yeah. And I kept one and we would feed it frogs and I'd see it constrict the frog. And then we got brown house snakes.
Which is unusual.
And then we got brown house snakes.
Yeah.
And with the brown house snakes, there were no one was breeding mice then. We'd get a gecko and we'd hold the gecko there and we'd bite the gecko and constrict it like a corn snake. And it was just, I can still smell what that first polystyrene enclosure smelled like. I kept it in, There were no heat pads, there were no thermostats. And then we'd keep it for a week or two and then we'd release it. And that's why I got into snakes. And the snakes might have changed. It might be a Mangshang viper or a king cobra or whatever. But the feeling of seeing a Mangshang viper or a king cobra feed and the smell in the enclosure, and it brings me back to a 4-year-old boy. And what I've appreciated about you too is I think that for all of us, we're on the same team and we love reptiles. And that's the message we're trying to get out there. So most of my audience don't keep snakes. A lot of them are commenting saying, I used to hate snakes, now I love snakes. Or, that's our biggest comment we get on the channel. And for me, I decided a long time ago, because I'm not really a breeder in the hobby, our channel doesn't exist, our YouTube channel, to try and reach the snake world. Our channel exists to try to reach people who don't like snakes and would run over a frog in the road or run over a snake, or the only good snake's a dead snake. And I've appreciated it how you've helped me out with Goliath. And there's no ego. There's just two guys who love snakes helping each other out. And that's been phenomenal for me. So, and mate, you are a snake nerd. The information you have is frightening. It is phenomenal. And it has been such a privilege for me. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but to chat to someone who genuinely knows and understands not only what's going on medically in the animals, but also who picks up behavioral things. Because I find a lot of keepers don't pick it up. And you can see with handling, I mean, I don't want to be that person who sits there criticizing other people's handling, because I think if you take any of us in a video, in a short clip, we'll criticize ourselves. That was bad. I didn't see it. I read it wrong. But at the same time is that you've got an understanding of the animals. And listening to you tonight talking about the hearing aspect of a snake, it's revolutionary. I love listening to that. And I think that we can all learn and we can all grow. And if our hearts are to love the animals, then there's no reason for people not to get along. But as soon as our heart's about, I'm a main guy with ego, it's a problem.
I have a couple things. Earlier you were talking about crocodilians and eating the raw chicken. I never finished that. One thing that's very, very critical. So if I'm a monitor and I go and eat some kind of rancid carrion, after I ingest it with all the bacteria, the way I manage all this dangerous bacteria is I go and hyper heat up. And what I do is I supercharge my metabolism, which then supercharges my immune response. And basically what it does is it allows the immune response of my metabolism to defeat the bacterium, the bacterial load that I've now ingested. So if I take that animal and I don't give it the option to get to its maximum temperature that it needs, I repress the immune response and I slow the metabolism, and I can actually put that animal into a dangerous role. So if I took a water monitor and I gave it some meat tainted with E. coli or salmonella or some other bacterium, and I only allow it to bask at 90 degrees, that animal might actually get sick and get overwhelmed by all that bacteria. People need to understand that. That higher 110, 120 degree basking spot allows that animal to basically kill that bacteria. And another thing, he's got to go. Yo, you got to go. We'll talk about
No, go for it. This is fascinating.
Okay, so here's a real interesting thing. I'd like to know, when a snake, a python is wrapping around its eggs, right? Yeah. So let's say I'm a python sabae, and I've laid a clutch of eggs, and I'm wrapping around my eggs. What is that snake doing?
I thought it's warming up the eggs because it's basking, coming in and putting that heat in the eggs. Is it not doing that?
Okay, so a lot of people actually, I have a different view of this. So you have this African rock python. She's wrapping around her eggs, and you've seen the twitching, right? Twitch. Yeah. And you think that snake, as it twitches, those muscle contractions are causing calories to be burned, and calories is a measurement of heat, and that's warming the eggs. Actually, I would argue this. What's actually happening is the eggs, that massive eggs, as mitosis, and there's cell division, and we're developing a baby snake from a few cells into basically a neonate. As that's happening, they're metabolizing and forming structures, and they're burning those calories and converting it into mass of baby animal for transition from a yolk to a living perfect replicant snake. So that as that's happening, it's burning calories. So that mass of eggs is actually creating heat. And the African rock mother is a cloak. She's there, and she has an internal thermostat. So as that mass starts heating up too much, she's going to open up her coils, and she's going to allow some of that heat to dissipate. And maybe in some cases, she could go out and bask and get warm. But I think a lot of that, she wants to be warm or whatever. And sure, when she comes down, she can transfer some of that energy. But the real, true nature of it is the eggs are actually creating the heat, and the mother is a cloak, and she's cloaking the humidity because these eggs are respirating. So there's vapor exchange, there's CO2, there's oxygen being taken in, CO2 being released, and moisture being taken in or released. So she's really the protector, but she finds an area that's of suitable temperature. So she she's the brains of the deal. But once those eggs are laid, those eggs actually give off heat. How about that?
That's phenomenal. Never thought about it, ever. Now, I always thought they bask, because I've found female rock pythons that have been basking, or the people tell me at the farm they bask out there, and I've come down and she's around her eggs. And I naturally thought she's getting warm, bringing that heat around the eggs. But what you're saying makes incredible sense. To go back on the crocs, I wanted to ask you, so if I'm feeding, now it's an outside animal, I can't, it's got to do with the sun and the weather. I've got a big pig leg, right?
Yeah.
So the pig has been maybe dead for half a day. We put it in the deep freeze, or we cut it up. We take a pig leg, we feed it to a big Nile croc. Is there any chance then of salmonella issues or any issues like that?
Okay, so we want to look at, like, so we have pathogens of, let's say, poultry, like chickens, which are nominally, salmonella is one of the pathogens. So we have to take a bacteria that can harm the chicken, or maybe the chicken lives with it, and under a good immune response, the chicken's okay. And we bring it to a snake or a croc that has a good immune response, which means hyperheating, getting itself in the range that it needs to be. A good immune response might be able to manage that. It's when we take something that is a pathogen that's not normal. So I don't think that salmonella would be a pathogen that's normally associated with a wild Nile crocodile. And when we talk about E. coli, we're talking about a bacteria that's generally associated with the GI tract of a mammal. And if I take the meat with that, and now I introduce that into the GI tract of a reptile that normally wouldn't be getting this pathogen like this, that could be a problem. But the croc, because it's designed to eat rotting carrion, it has this immune response which probably annihilates E. coli, annihilates salmonella when best case scenarios, good basking. If you have good sun and that animal can get to the temperatures it wants to, you're probably very, very safe. But if you're in the middle of your winter and you're basking, it's like, God, it's kind of cold, that's probably a good time not to feed it. And that animal's protecting itself because it's not likely even hungry. Its immune response down, its appetite is down. And that's actually protecting that animal from getting itself into that scenario. And then captivity, we might do something stupid. We offer the food, but we don't give the proper basking that animal needs, and we put that animal in danger. In some cases, that is actually what makes these animals sick. Kenan, Kenan had fed his white throat monitor some shrimp, and what he did is he introduced salmonella or some kind of bacterium to that animal. That I found out that his basking temperatures weren't where I thought they should be, and I think that actually made that animal sick. So we went into just a response, which is treating with antibiotics and some Flagyl, and that rectified the situation at that time. But it's only because I was quickly able to, as soon as he told me what happened, I was immediately able to go, I know what this is what you need to do. And he did it, and he was like, wow, you're right. What a difference. It saved that animal. And the vet had a hard time articulating what the problem was. And our experience and know-how really can help us.
Now, Kenan seems like a nice guy. I've never spoken to him, but
he's wonderful.
He seems like
he talks language. You become fast friends with him. You're like, wow, you don't feel worried that I can trust this person, and you're willing to let down your guard, and show, something that, maybe we could, improve, or maybe we don't know as much.
Yeah.
And
nice guy.
Always makes it much easier for us to learn off each other because we're willing to spread that information, and if I want to be the greatest keeper in the world, I want to show how much better I am in every aspect than everybody else. And I'm unwilling to show my information because that makes me a little bit less special. And some people might be that way. I like the animals, and I like to make friends, and I like to share this knowledge.
Yeah, no, for sure. One last thing. Do you mind if I ask you another question?
Sure.
I hope our viewers don't mind this, but this is what we do. But with our crocs, so my crocs are all staying outside. I've got alligators, we've got Nile crocs, right? I've got some young alligators, they inside, easy to monitor, cool. But our guys, when they're outside now, I mean, they're not eating for 4 months, 5 months of the year. My Niles still haven't started eating now. And we're warming up, going towards summer. You know, it gets hot here November, December onwards, up to Feb. And strangely enough, my female alligator, she's about, I don't know, 9 foot. And the male and her have been bellowing. And they've started looking like they're mating. From what I can see, they're quite shy. So as soon as you go too close and they're bellowing, they stop. And that's a big thing for us in South Africa because we don't breed alligators here. I know everywhere you point a stick, you're going to get a gator in the States. But here, it's like to breed alligators is a woo-hoo, massive mission for us. So she's eating and she's looking quite fat, but she's only started eating in the last 2 weeks. But she's literally coming up for food now. So I'm hoping that's a good sign.
So what she's doing is we've taken these wild alligators and we've ultrasounded them. And so right after our winters, as spring starts coming in, you first start getting your feeding. We're ultrasounding these animals. We're finding like 17, 18 millimeter follicles in them. So what she's doing is she's justifying a reproductive effort by getting as much caloric intake as possible, because if she commits to reproduction and she breeds and gets fertile eggs in there, at some point she's going to sacrifice her own needs to eat to protect that nest. She's not going to maybe get as many food opportunities. So right now she needs to get as much energy in there, get those fat cells jacked up. And if you get a good food intake, those follicles are going to start growing. She's talking to the male. So basically she's telling him, I'm here and you know it's time, we're going to reproduce at some point. That talking is going to that's going to really excite her hormones and the follicular growth and all that. So you're going to probably need to breed those probably soon. I imagine by the time her follicles are 25 millimeters, you're going to want to get some, you know, some breeding going. And so you get fertile
well, I've left
eggs.
it there. Yeah, and they're doing really well. They're not fighting, which is a big effort here in South Africa. Because most of the gators we find here just fight each other. The females kill the males or vice versa. And I've got 2 ponds.
Yeah, she'll probably get bad once they've done the breeding. Right now, this is the first dates. But once she probably becomes gravid, she's going to drive that male away. So that's where monitors do this. Crocodilians can do it. And it's remarkable because you can have this smaller female gator that acts incredibly aggro, and she can kill a larger male because the male doesn't know how to deal with it. And in captivity, they're confined to a certain size environment. So you have to then mitigate that by removing that male, because she needs to, her primary focus is to create a safe range where she's going to nest and she doesn't have to worry about any predators. And that male is obviously an apex predator that she regards as a real problem.
So as soon as she starts chasing him, I'll split them.
You get a couple of good breedings in there, and it's probably, you're going to get really tolerant behavior to the point where you notice, wow, he's always staying on the outside range. That means it's time, he's got to go.
Okay. Oh, that's helpful to know. And then hopefully my Niles will start eating again sometime soon.
I'm sure they're big enough. All right.
They are, but you know what? You want them big and healthy, and then they don't eat for 5 months of the year. It's flipping depressing.
Well, I guess if you're a chicken, it's probably not a time to be depressed because you're
big.
You're safe for a little while. But I had a good time. Hopefully our audience, hey guys, we wanted to show you just a little bit about kind of what we talk about. And hopefully that was interesting to some of you. And certainly please give us some of your comments. And please check out Dingo. I'm sure you all know who he is. Maybe I should worry about you guys not knowing who I am.
No,
I never.
I need some of Dingo's audience to know who I am.
I'm doing the videos coming out in 18 minutes, and I'm giving you some shout outs in there. So if my audience is on you, they'll be watching you on your Insta though. But follow the man. Kev, Donny as well. I appreciate all the effort, guys, and the help and the support. And it is, I can't tell you the relief, because you know what it's like with vets, with reptiles. Is your Gaboon still out there?
Yeah, he's a dog, I told you.
Beautiful. It's such a help to know you the other side of the phone. And thank you for all the help. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys. I hope everybody enjoyed this, and please make sure you share this and let people know. Because if we feel like this was a good, positive move, and you actually enjoyed this conversation, we'll do it again. But we need you guys to tell us how much you liked it.
Cool.